a dinosaur eating a croissant just like mine.
Oh wow, that's a very happy dinosaur.
The text message glowed on Marcus's phone screen at 2 a.m. I know you're avoiding me, Marcus. Monday's board meeting isn't optional. Neither is the charity gala tomorrow night. I expect to see you there. Marcus Wright stared at his CEO's message, a knot forming in his stomach as he glanced at his sleeping 6-year-old daughter, Lily, curled up beside him after another nightmare. How could he possibly juggle a high-pressure career, single parenthood, and now these mandatory social events? Little did he know, the blind date he was about to be ambushed with would completely transform his carefully constructed world. If you're enjoying this story of unexpected love and second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content that reminds us all that sometimes life's greatest gifts come when we least expect them. Marcus rubbed his tired eyes, the blue light of his laptop screen the only illumination in his modest apartment. At 35, he'd become an expert at balancing spreadsheets and bedtime stories, client meetings and school pickups. After losing his wife to cancer 3 years ago, he'd poured himself into two things, his career as CFO at Meridian Technologies and raising Lily. Everything else, including his CEO's social expectations, fell firmly into the expendable category. Daddy? Lily's small voice called from her bedroom doorway. She stood clutching her stuffed elephant, hair tousled from sleep. Hey, sweetheart. Another bad dream? Marcus closed his laptop and opened his arms. Lily nodded, climbing onto his lap. The one where I can't find you. Marcus held her close, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. I'm right here, Lil. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise. He kissed the top of her head, guilt gnawing at him. His boss, Richard Keller, had been increasingly insistent about Marcus's presence at company events. The promotion to CFO 6 months ago had come with unspoken expectations that Marcus had been strategically avoiding. The next morning brought chaos as usual. Spilled cereal, a missing shoe, and a last-minute school project crisis that required emergency glue stick surgery. By the time Marcus dropped Lily at school and arrived at Meridian's gleaming headquarters, he was already exhausted. There he is. Richard's booming voice carried across the executive floor. The ghost of Meridian Technologies. Marcus forced a smile. Richard Keller was brilliant, demanding, and utterly incapable of understanding why anyone wouldn't want to spend every waking moment either working or networking. At 50, with 3 ex-wives and no children, Richard's life was Meridian. Morning, Richard. I was just heading to the quarterly review prep. Excellent, walk with me. Richard fell into step beside him. You're coming tonight, right? The Children's Hospital Gala? Marcus hesitated. I've got Lily, and my regular sitter is already handled. Richard waved dismissively. My assistant called Mrs. Peterson. She's happy to watch Lily. Marcus stopped walking. You called my backup sitter? Marcus. Richard's tone shifted to the one he used when closing million-dollar deals. You're the CFO now. That means being visible. The board notices these things. Besides, his voice lightened, my niece is in town. Brilliant woman, professor at Columbia. She'll be at my table tonight. And there it was. Not just a mandatory work event, but a setup. Marcus had endured 3 of Richard's matchmaking attempts in the past year, each more awkward than the last. Richard, I appreciate the thought, but I'm not really looking to date right now. Who said anything about dating? Just conversation with an intelligent adult. When's the last time you had that? Richard clapped him on the shoulder. 8 o'clock. The Westmore Hotel. Don't be late. Throughout the day, Marcus tried to focus on work while mentally calculating his options. He could claim Lily was sick, but Richard would probably send his personal physician. He could develop a sudden illness himself, but Richard would see through that immediately. By 6 o'clock, he found himself standing in his bedroom, reluctantly putting on the tuxedo that had hung untouched since Sarah's funeral. "You look handsome, Daddy," Lily said from his doorway, already in her pajamas, Mrs. Peterson hovering behind her. "Thank you, sweetheart." He knelt down to her level. "You be good for Mrs. Peterson, okay? I won't be too late. Is it a party? Is that why you're dressed up? Something like that. For work. Will there be princesses?" Marcus smiled. "Probably not real ones. Maybe you'll meet one, like in my stories," Lily said with the simple optimism of childhood. "I'm not looking for princesses, Lil. I've got you." The Westmore Hotel ballroom was a sea of black ties and evening gowns, crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow over the city's elite. Marcus spotted Richard immediately, holding court at a prime table near the stage. "Marcus." "Finally." Richard waved him over. "Everyone, this is Marcus Wright, the financial wizard who's going to take Meridian to new heights." Marcus nodded politely as Richard introduced the table, board members, their spouses, a local politician. But one seat remained conspicuously empty. "My niece seems to be running late," Richard said with a frown, checking his watch. Academics, always lost in their own world. The evening progressed painfully slowly. Marcus made appropriate small talk, answered questions about Meridian's financial outlook, and checked his phone under the table every few minutes. No messages from Mrs. Peterson, which was good, but the empty chair across from him felt like a reprieve. Perhaps Richard's niece had better sense than to participate in her uncle's matchmaking schemes. Just as the main course was being served, there was a commotion at the entrance. Marcus glanced up to see a woman hurriedly speaking to the event coordinator, gesturing apologetically. Even from a distance, something about her caught his attention. She wasn't what he expected from Richard's description, no severe academic bun or intimidating power suit. Instead, she wore a simple midnight blue dress, her dark hair falling in natural waves around her shoulders. "Ah! There she is," Richard stood, waving. "Olivia. Over here." The woman turned, spotted Richard, and made her way toward their table. As she got closer, Marcus could see she was roughly his age, with warm brown eyes and an expression that suggested she was as uncomfortable with this situation as he was. "I'm so sorry I'm late," she said, slightly breathless. "My flight was delayed, and then the taxi got caught in traffic." "Everyone, this is my brilliant niece, Dr. Olivia Chen," Richard announced proudly. "Olivia, you know most of these folks. And this," he gestured to Marcus, "is Marcus Wright, our CFO." Olivia's eyes met Marcus's, and something passed between them, a mutual recognition of being pawns in Richard's game. "It's nice to meet you, Marcus," she said, taking the empty seat across from him. "Likewise," Marcus replied, surprised to find he meant it. As dinner continued, Marcus found himself increasingly drawn into conversation with Olivia. Unlike Richard's previous setups, women who either pitted him as the poor widower or saw him as a project to be fixed, Olivia treated him like a person. She asked thoughtful questions and actually listened to his answers. "So you teach comparative literature?" Marcus asked, genuinely interested. "Yes, focusing on how stories transcend cultural boundaries," Olivia explained. "I'm particularly interested in children's literature and how the same fundamental stories appear across different cultures. My daughter would love that. She's obsessed with stories right now." Olivia's expression softened. "How old is she?" 6. Going on 16, sometimes. That's such a magical age. They're developing their own tastes but still believe in possibilities. Marcus found himself sharing stories about Lily, her determination to learn to read big kid books, her elaborate imaginary games, her questions about her mother. Olivia listened with genuine interest, occasionally sharing insights from her research on how children process complex emotions through storytelling. I'm sorry, Marcus said suddenly, realizing he'd been talking about Lily for nearly 20 minutes. I don't get many chances to talk about her with people who actually find it interesting. Don't apologize, Olivia smiled. It's refreshing to meet a father so engaged in his daughter's development. Most of my colleagues with children seem to view parenting as something happening in a separate universe from their professional lives. It's not always easy to integrate the two, Marcus admitted, glancing at Richard who was deep in conversation with a board member. Uncle Richard doesn't quite get it, does he? Olivia said quietly, following Marcus's gaze. Not really. He's brilliant at business, but he thinks life should be compartmentalized like a corporate organizational chart, Olivia finished. Trust me, I know. He's been trying to fix my life choices since I decided to pursue literature instead of business school. As the evening progressed, Marcus found himself relaxing for the first time in months. Olivia was easy to talk to, intelligent without being condescending, and possessed a quiet sense of humor that caught him off guard. When she described her uncle's horrified reaction to her turning down a corporate publishing job to teach, Marcus actually laughed out loud, something he couldn't remember doing at a work function since Sarah died. By the time the charity auction began, they had moved their chairs closer together, creating their own island in the sea of networking and business talk. When their hands accidentally brushed while reaching for water glasses, Marcus felt an unexpected jolt, not just physical attraction, but something deeper. A connection he'd assumed was no longer possible for him. So how long are you in town? Marcus asked as the evening began winding down. Just the weekend. I'm giving a guest lecture at the university tomorrow, then flying back Sunday evening. That's too bad, Marcus said before he could stop himself. I know what you mean, Olivia said with a small smile. I was thinking the same thing. As the gala ended and guests began departing, Richard appeared, looking smugly pleased with himself. Well? Wasn't I right? You two hit it off splendidly. Marcus and Olivia exchanged glances, both embarrassed by Richard's lack of subtlety. Uncle Richard, subtlety has never been your strong suit, Olivia said, but her tone was affectionate. Why be subtle when I'm right? Richard checked his watch. I've got an early meeting with Japanese investors tomorrow. Olivia, the car will take you back to the hotel. Marcus, see that she gets there safely, will you? Before either could respond, Richard was gone, leaving them standing awkwardly in the emptying ballroom. I'm sorry about him, they both said simultaneously, then laughed. You don't need to escort me, Olivia said. I'm sure you want to get home to your daughter. Actually, Mrs. Peterson stays overnight when I have late events. Lily will be asleep. Marcus hesitated, then added, I wouldn't mind making sure you get back safely. The night air was cool as they stepped outside, the city lights creating a backdrop of twinkling stars below the actual starless urban sky. The hotel's car was waiting, but instead of getting in immediately, Olivia paused. Would you like to walk for a bit? My hotel's only a few blocks away, and after sitting all evening. I'd like that, Marcus said, surprising himself again. They walked slowly, their conversation flowing naturally from literature to business ethics to favorite childhood memories. When Olivia mentioned growing up in a small apartment above her parents' bookstore, Marcus felt another unexpected connection. My mom was a librarian, he shared. Some of my earliest memories are of hiding among the stacks, discovering new worlds. That explains why you're so comfortable discussing 19th-century Russian literature, Olivia teased, referencing their earlier debate about Tolstoy. I'm full of surprises, Marcus replied, feeling lighter than he had in years. When they reached her hotel, they both hesitated, neither wanting the evening to end. I had a really nice time tonight, Olivia said. Much better than I expected from one of Uncle Richard's setups. Me too, Marcus admitted. I've been dreading these events, but tonight was different. Different good? Different great. Olivia smiled, then reached into her small evening bag and pulled out a business card. My personal number is on the back. If you and Lily ever find yourselves in New York, or if you just want to continue our Tolstoy debate. Marcus took the card, their fingers touching briefly. I'd like that. Good night, Marcus. Good night, Olivia. As he watched her enter the hotel, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 years, possibility. Not just the possibility of romance, but of connection, of sharing his life with someone who seemed to understand both his worlds. The next morning, Marcus woke to Lily bouncing on his bed, full of questions about the work party and whether he'd met any princesses. As he made pancakes and listened to her chatter, his mind kept drifting to Olivia. Should he call her? Was it too soon? Would she even want to hear from him before she left town? Daddy, you're burning the pancake. Lily's voice snapped him back to reality. Oops. Sorry, Lil. He quickly flipped the slightly charred pancake onto his own plate. This one's mine. You were thinking about something, Lily observed with the uncanny perception of children. Was it Mommy? Marcus sat down beside her. Not this time, sweetheart. I was thinking about someone I met last night. A nice lady who teaches about stories. Lily's eyes widened. Like my stories? Exactly like your stories. She studies how children all over the world read similar stories even though they live in different places. That sounds like the best job ever, Lily declared, syrup dripping down her chin. Marcus smiled, wiping her face with a napkin. It does, doesn't it? After breakfast, as Lily was coloring at the kitchen table, Marcus found himself staring at Olivia's card. Before he could overthink it, he sent a text, "Good luck with your lecture today. Lily thinks you have the best job ever. Marcus." To his surprise, a response came almost immediately, "Tell Lily thank you. About to go on stage. Wish me luck. Coffee after?" Oh. Marcus felt his heart rate quicken as he typed back, "Name the place. We'll be there." 3 hours later, Marcus and Lily sat in a cozy cafe near the university, Lily vibrating with excitement at meeting a real story professor. When Olivia walked in, her face lit up at the sight of them, and Marcus felt that same jolt of connection. "You must be Lily," Olivia said, kneeling down to the girl's level. "Your dad tells me you love stories." Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Do you know all the stories in the world?" Olivia laughed. "Not all of them. That's what makes my job so exciting, there are always new stories to discover." As they settled at a table, Lily between them, Marcus watched in amazement as Olivia engaged his daughter in a conversation about favorite books and characters. There was no condescension, no baby talk. She spoke to Lily as a fellow story enthusiast, just with simpler vocabulary. When Lily went to examine the cafe's small bookshelf, Olivia turned to Marcus. "She's wonderful. So bright and curious." "She likes you," Marcus said. "That doesn't happen often with new people." "Children can sense authenticity," Olivia replied. "I never understood adults who talk down to kids. They're just people with less experience, not less intelligence." "Exactly," Marcus said, feeling that connection strengthen. "Sarah, my late wife, always said the same thing." A shadow of uncertainty crossed Olivia's face. "Richard told me about your wife. I'm so sorry for your loss." "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. "It's been 3 years, but sometimes it feels like yesterday. Other times." He glanced at Lily, happily flipping through a picture book. "Other times, I realize how much life has continued, how much Lily has grown and changed." Sarah would barely recognize her now. "That must be difficult," Olivia said gently. "Carrying those memories alone." "It is. But it's getting, not easier, exactly, but different." Marcus met her eyes. "Last night was the first time in years I've enjoyed myself at an event like that. The first time I've felt like maybe there's room for something new in my life." Olivia reached across the table and briefly touched his hand. I felt it too. And it surprised me just as much. The afternoon passed in a blur of conversation, laughter, and Lily's increasingly elaborate stories inspired by Olivia's questions. When it was time for Olivia to leave for her flight, Lily gave her a tight hug and extracted a promise to recommend more books. Standing on the sidewalk outside the cafe. Marcus felt a familiar anxiety rising. This connection with Olivia felt significant, but she lived in New York. He had responsibilities in Chicago. Lily was finally stable after years of emotional turmoil. Was he being selfish even considering pursuing this? I can hear you overthinking from here, Olivia said softly, adjusting her bag on her shoulder. That obvious, huh? Your face is very expressive. She smiled. Look, I know this is complicated. You have Lily to consider, and we live in different cities, and we've known each other for less than 24 hours. When you put it that way, it sounds completely reasonable, Marcus said with a wry smile. Doesn't it? Olivia laughed, then grew serious. But I haven't felt this kind of connection with someone in a long time. Maybe ever. And I'd regret not seeing where it might lead. Marcus took a deep breath. Me too. But I need to be careful. For Lily's sake. Of course you do. That's one of the things I admire about you already. Olivia checked her watch. My cab should be here any minute. So what happens now? Marcus asked. Now we do what adults do. We talk. We text. We video chat. We get to know each other without pressure. She reached out and squeezed his hand. And maybe in a few weeks, I have a conference in Chicago. Or maybe you and Lily want to see the dinosaurs at the American Museum of Natural History. Lily would love that, Marcus said, feeling hope rise in his chest. And her dad? Her dad would too. When Olivia's cab arrived, their goodbye was brief but charged with possibility. As Marcus watched the cab disappear into traffic, Lily tugged on his hand. I like her, Daddy. She doesn't talk to me like I'm a baby. I noticed that, Marcus said, smiling down at his daughter. Is she going to be your friend now? Marcus considered how to answer. I hope so, Lil. Would that be okay with you? Lily thought for a moment, her face serious. Yes. But she lives far away, right? She does. In New York. That's okay. You can talk on the computer like I do with Grandma and Grandpa. That's true, Marcus said, amazed at his daughter's simple wisdom. Over the next few weeks, Marcus and Olivia developed a routine. They texted throughout the day, small observations, questions, moments from their lives. In the evenings, after Lily was in bed, they would video chat, sometimes talking for hours about everything and nothing. Olivia would share stories from her classes, Marcus would talk about the challenges of balancing work and fatherhood. Once a week, they included Lily in their calls. Olivia would recommend books and ask about Lily's school projects. Sometimes she would read stories aloud, her animated voice bringing characters to life across the digital divide. At work, Marcus noted, we talk. We text. We video chat. We get to know each other without pressure. She reached out and squeezed his hand. And maybe in a few weeks, I have a conference in Chicago. Or maybe you and Lily want to see the dinosaurs at the American Museum of Natural History. Lily would love that, Marcus said, feeling hope rise in his chest. And her dad? Her dad would too. When Olivia's cab arrived, their goodbye was brief but charged with possibility. As Marcus watched the cab disappear into traffic, Lily tugged on his hand. I like her, Daddy. She doesn't talk to me like I'm a baby. I noticed that, Marcus said, smiling down at his daughter. Is she going to be your friend now? Marcus considered how to answer. I hope so, Lil. Would that be okay with you? Lily thought for a moment, her face serious. Yes. But she lives far away, right? She does. In New York. That's okay. You can talk on the computer like I do with Grandma and Grandpa. That's true, Marcus said, amazed at his daughter's simple wisdom. Over the next few weeks, Marcus and Olivia developed a routine. They texted throughout the day, small observations, questions, moments from their lives. In the evenings, after Lily was in bed, they would video chat, sometimes talking for hours about everything and nothing. Olivia would share stories from her classes, Marcus would talk about the challenges of balancing work and fatherhood. Once a week, they included Lily in their calls. Olivia would recommend books and ask about Lily's school projects. Sometimes she would read stories aloud, her animated voice bringing characters to life across the digital divide. At work, Marcus noticed Richard watching him with smug satisfaction. During their weekly one-on-one meeting, his boss finally broached the subject. So, my niece tells me you two have been talking regularly. Marcus maintained his professional composure. We have. Excellent. I knew you'd hit it off. When are you going to visit her in New York? I can arrange for the company jet. Richard, Marcus interrupted firmly. I appreciate your enthusiasm. But Olivia and I are figuring this out at our own pace. Richard looked surprised, then thoughtful. You're right. I'm overstepping. It's just, he hesitated, showing rare vulnerability, I've known you both for years. You're both exceptional people who've been alone too long. Sometimes happiness needs a little push. Sometimes, Marcus acknowledged. But sometimes it needs space to grow naturally. Richard nodded, accepting the gentle rebuke. Fair enough. But the offer of the jet stands. For business or otherwise. 6 weeks after the gala, Olivia called with news. Remember that conference I mentioned? It's happening next month. I'll be in Chicago for 4 days. Marcus felt his heart race. That's great. When exactly? As they coordinated schedules, Marcus realized he was facing a board meeting during part of her visit. I can try to reschedule. Don't, Olivia said firmly. This is real life, Marcus. We both have commitments and responsibilities. We'll work around them. Her understanding only made him more certain about his growing feelings for her. I want you to meet Mrs. Peterson, he said suddenly. She's been Lily's caregiver since Sarah died. Her approval means a lot. I'd be honored, Olivia said, understanding the significance of the introduction. When Olivia arrived in Chicago, their first in-person meeting since the cafe felt both familiar and new. They'd spent hours talking virtually, but the physical presence, the subtle scent of her perfume, the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, added dimensions their digital connection couldn't capture. Mrs. Peterson, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s who had become like family to Marcus and Lily, observed Olivia carefully during dinner at Marcus's apartment. By dessert, her initial reserve had melted into warm conversation. Later, as Olivia helped Lily with her bedtime routine, Mrs. Peterson pulled Marcus aside. She's good with Lily, the older woman said simply. And she looks at you like you hang the moon. But more importantly, she sees Lily as a person, not an obstacle or an accessory. I know, Marcus said quietly. That's what scares me. What if this doesn't work out? Lily's already lost so much. Mrs. Peterson patted his arm. Life offers no guarantees, Marcus. But that girl deserves a mother figure who cherishes her. And you deserve happiness. Don't let fear rob you both of possibilities. The 4 days of Olivia's visit passed too quickly. They created a careful balance, time for just the two of them, time with Lily, and time for Olivia's conference obligations. On her last evening, after Lily was asleep, they sat on Marcus's small balcony, the city lights spread before them. I don't want to go back tomorrow, Olivia admitted, her head resting on his shoulder. I don't want you to go either, Marcus said, his arm around her. These past few days have felt right. Like pieces falling into place. I know. Olivia sat up, facing him. Which is why we need to talk about what happens next. Long-distance relationships are hard enough without a child involved. Marcus nodded, appreciating her directness. I've been thinking about that too. A lot. And I think we need to be intentional. Set regular visits. Include Lily in appropriate ways. Be honest with each other when it gets difficult. Olivia smiled. The CFO approach. I like it. But there's something else, Marcus continued, taking her hands in his. Something I realized watching you with Lily. You fit into our lives, Olivia. Not as a replacement for what we lost, but as something new and wonderful. I don't want to rush this, but I also don't want to pretend I'm not falling in love with you. Olivia's eyes glistened. I'm falling in love with you too. Both of you, actually. And it terrifies me because I've never felt this way before. Terrifies me too, Marcus admitted. But in a good way. Over the next 6 months, they developed a rhythm. Olivia would fly to Chicago one weekend a month, Marcus and Lily would visit New York the following month. Between visits, their digital connection continued to deepen. Lily began including Olivia in her family drawings at school, a development that brought tears to both adults' eyes when she proudly displayed her artwork during a video call. At work, Marcus found himself thriving. The emotional fulfillment in his personal life seemed to fuel his professional creativity. He proposed innovative financial strategies that impressed even Richard, who had the grace not to take too much credit for playing matchmaker. The challenges came, as they knew they would. Miscommunications over text. The frustration of physical distance. Moments when Lily tested boundaries with Olivia, uncertain of her role. But each challenge, addressed with honesty and patience, ultimately strengthened their bond. 9 months after the gala, Marcus found himself back at the Westmore Hotel for the same charity event. This time, Olivia was by his side from the beginning, having flown in specifically for the occasion. As they entered the ballroom, Richard spotted them immediately. There they are. The success story of last year's gala, he boomed, embracing his niece and clapping Marcus on the shoulder. Uncle Richard, subtlety. We've discussed this, Olivia said with fond exasperation. Bah. When I'm right, I deserve to gloat. He lowered his voice conspiratorially. So, any big decisions on the horizon? Moving arrangements? Jewelry selections? Richard, Marcus warned, though without real heat. Fine, fine. But don't make me wait too long. I'm not getting any younger, and I want to dance at your wedding. As Richard moved away to greet other guests, Olivia squeezed Marcus's hand. He's incorrigible. He is, Marcus agreed. But he's not entirely wrong either. Olivia looked at him questioningly. I have been thinking about the future, Marcus admitted. About making this arrangement more permanent. Have you now? Olivia's eyes sparkled. And what does Lily think about that? She asked me last week why you don't live with us yet. Her exact words were, Daddy, don't you know Olivia belongs with us? Smart girl, Olivia said softly. The smartest, Marcus agreed. So I've been looking into faculty positions here in Chicago. And I found something interesting. Olivia's eyes widened. Marcus, I never expected you to. I know. But Northwestern has an opening in their comparative literature department starting next fall. The department chair is an old college friend of Richard's. Don't roll your eyes, it's actually helpful for once, and she's very interested in your research. You've been investigating job opportunities for me? Olivia seemed stunned. Just exploring possibilities, Marcus said. No pressure. But I wanted you to know that I'm serious about finding a way to be together. All three of us. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. I've been doing some exploring too. Columbia has a satellite campus program starting here. I could potentially split my time between New York and Chicago. Really? Now it was Marcus's turn to be surprised. Really? Because Lily was right, I do belong with you both. As the evening progressed, they found themselves on the same balcony where they'd first stepped out for air the previous year. The city lights twinkled below, unchanged, yet everything was different. 1 year ago, I was dreading this event, Marcus said, his arm around Olivia's waist. I was determined to make an appearance and escape as quickly as possible. And I was running late, cursing Uncle Richard for his meddling, Olivia added with a laugh. And now look at us. Look at us indeed. Marcus turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. I had a whole plan, you know. For how and when to do this. Something romantic and perfect. Do what? Olivia asked, though her expression suggested she already knew. Ask you to marry me. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I've been carrying this around for weeks, waiting for the right moment. But standing here, where our story began, I realized there's no perfect moment except the one we create. He opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring, a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. It reminded me of the dress you wore that first night. Olivia's hands trembled as she looked from the ring to his face. Marcus. I love you, Olivia. And Lily loves you. We want you to be part of our family officially. Will you marry me? Yes, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Yes, absolutely yes. As he slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into an embrace, Marcus felt the final pieces of his heart healing, not erasing the past, but creating space for a new future. A future where a blind date he tried to avoid had become the love story he never expected. 1 year later, in a small ceremony with Lily as flower girl and Richard beaming proudly in the front row, Marcus and Olivia exchanged vows. Their path hadn't been without obstacles, merging two established lives never is, but each challenge had been faced together, with honesty and determination. Olivia had accepted a joint position between Northwestern and Columbia, spending most of her time in Chicago but traveling to New York for intensive teaching periods. Marcus had restructured his role at Meridian to allow more flexibility for family time. And Lily had blossomed with the stability of two parents who adored her, while still honoring the memory of the mother she'd lost. At the reception, Richard cornered the newlyweds, champagne in hand. I'd like to propose a toast, he announced, his voice carrying across the room. To the best investment I ever made, introducing my brilliant niece to my stubborn CFO. The guests laughed as Marcus shook his head in mock exasperation. But in all seriousness, Richard continued, his voice softening, watching you two find each other, watching you create this beautiful family, has been the greatest joy of my life. To Marcus, Olivia, and Lily, may your story continue to unfold with all the love and courage that brought you to this day. As glasses clinked and well wishes flowed around them, Marcus pulled Olivia close, their rings catching the light. Thank you for changing my life, he whispered. Thank you for letting me, she replied, her eyes shining with promise for all the chapters yet to come. That night, as they danced under twinkling lights, surrounded by friends and family, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a reluctant blind date to a blended family built on understanding and love. From a man avoiding his CEO to a father embracing new possibilities. From loss to renewal. Sometimes, he realized, the things we try hardest to avoid are exactly what we need the most. And sometimes, when we least expect it, life offers second chances that exceed our wildest dreams. As the music played and Olivia's head rested against his shoulder, Marcus knew with absolute certainty that their story, unexpected, challenging, and beautiful, was just beginning. As the years passed, the Wright family settled into a rhythm that balanced careers, education, and most importantly, their life together. Olivia's academic schedule allowed her to be present for Lily's important moments while still pursuing her passion for literature. Marcus found that his work at Meridian took on new meaning, no longer just a career to support his daughter, but part of a larger family vision they were building together. On Lily's 10th birthday, they gathered in the backyard of their new home, a charming Victorian with enough space for Olivia's extensive book collection and Lily's growing interests. Friends and family mingled as Lily proudly showed off her latest art projects, her creativity flourishing under Olivia's gentle encouragement. "She's so different from the shy little girl I met 4 years ago," Mrs. Peterson remarked, watching Lily confidently explain her painting to a group of classmates. "She is," Marcus agreed. "But in some ways, she's more herself than ever." Across the yard, Richard was entertaining guests with his usual flair, though the corporate titan had softened noticeably since becoming an honorary uncle to Lily and welcoming 2 grandnephews, Marcus and Olivia's twin boys, now toddling after their big sister with determined expressions. If someone had told me 5 years ago that Richard Keller would spend his weekends building elaborate block towers and reading picture books, I'd have laughed them out of the room, Olivia said, joining Marcus with a sleeping James on her shoulder. "People change," Marcus replied, gently taking his son and settling him in the portable crib they'd set up in the shade. "Sometimes they just need the right motivation." "Speaking of change," Olivia said, watching as Richard helped Lily cut her birthday cake, "have you thought more about his offer?" Marcus nodded. The conversation with Richard last week had been unexpected. After years of grooming Marcus to eventually take over as CEO, Richard had announced his intention to retire within the next 2 years. "I have. It's an incredible opportunity. But..." Olivia knew him well enough to hear the hesitation. "But I'm not sure I want that life. The travel, the pressure, the time away from you and the kids." Marcus watched as Thomas, James's identical twin, toddled over to Lily, who immediately scooped him up with the practiced ease of a devoted big sister. "What we've built here is too precious to risk." Olivia slipped her arm around his waist. "Whatever you decide, we'll make it work. That's what we do." "That's what we do," Marcus echoed, kissing the top of her head. Later that evening, after the guests had departed and the children were asleep, Marcus and Olivia sat on their back porch swing, a tradition they'd maintained since moving into the house. The gentle creaking of the swing and the distant sounds of the city created a peaceful backdrop for their conversation. "I've been thinking," Marcus said, his fingers intertwined with Olivia's. "About Richard's offer, about our future." "And?" Olivia prompted. "And I think there might be a third option. Not taking the CEO position as offered, but proposing something different. A co-leadership model that would allow for more balance." Olivia considered this. Richard would be open to that? 5 years ago? No way. But now? "I think he's realized there's more to life than traditional corporate structures." Marcus smiled. "He told me last week that watching us build our family while maintaining our careers has made him rethink a lot of his assumptions." High praise from the man who once told me that having children was career suicide, Olivia laughed. "People evolve," Marcus said. "Look at us. When we met, I was convinced I'd never find love again, that Lily and I would always be a unit of two. You were focused on your career, skeptical about fitting a relationship into your life. And now we're sitting on our porch swing, discussing our 3 children and your potential CEO position," Olivia marveled. "Life is full of surprises." "The best kind," Marcus agreed. As they sat in comfortable silence, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The blind date he tried so desperately to avoid had become the cornerstone of a life richer and more fulfilling than he could have imagined. The grief that had once defined him hadn't disappeared. Sarah would always be part of their family story, honored in photographs and memories shared with Lily, but it no longer cast a shadow over his future. "What are you thinking about?" Olivia asked, noticing his contemplative expression. "About how sometimes the things we resist most turn out to be exactly what we need," Marcus replied. About how one evening can change the entire trajectory of a life. Olivia nodded. And about how love finds us even when we think we're hiding from it. Exactly that. Inside the house, they heard a small voice calling. Daddy? Olivia? They exchanged glances and rose together. Coming, Lily, Olivia called back. As they walked hand in hand toward their daughter's room, Marcus felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over him. For Richard's meddling, for Olivia's late arrival at the gala, for every circumstance that had aligned to bring them together. Life would continue to present challenges, careers would evolve, children would grow, new chapters would unfold. But the foundation they had built together was strong enough to weather whatever came their way. In Lily's room, they found her sitting up in bed, her dream journal, a gift from Olivia on their wedding day, open beside her. I had the best dream, she announced as they sat on either side of her bed. We were all in it, you and Daddy and me and the twins. And Mom too, watching over us. Marcus felt Olivia's hand find his behind Lily's back, a silent acknowledgement of the beautiful complexity of their blended family. That sounds like a wonderful dream, Olivia said softly. It was, Lily confirmed. In my dream, Mom told me she was happy because we were happy. Is that possible, do you think? Marcus swallowed the lump in his throat. I think that's exactly what she would want, Lil. As they tucked Lily back in and returned to their own room, Marcus pulled Olivia close. Thank you, he whispered against her hair. For what? For everything. For loving Lily as your own while honoring Sarah's memory. For our boys. For making me believe in second chances. Olivia leaned back to look into his eyes. Thank you for being worth the chance. In that moment, surrounded by the quiet of their home with their children sleeping peacefully down the hall, Marcus knew with absolute certainty that sometimes life's most beautiful gifts come disguised as obligations we try to avoid. His reluctant blind date had become his most treasured blessing, a love story that had not only healed his broken heart but had created a family stronger and more beautiful than he could have ever imagined. And somewhere, he liked to think, Sarah was smiling down on them all, pleased that the family she had helped create had found its way to happiness once again. If you've enjoyed this journey of love, loss, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind us all that even in our darkest moments, unexpected joy may be waiting just around the corner. Sometimes the very thing we're trying to avoid becomes the blessing we never knew we needed.